Hi, I'm Tom Stevenson and welcome to Microsoft Project Made Easy. Today we're going to be looking at updating and revising and recovering. I've done updating in a previous video. I'll quickly review that. If you want it in more depth, I'll leave a description and a link to the YouTube video in the description. For today though, we're going to really kind of hone in on the revising, recovering of a schedule. But let's get down to brass tacks here. Let's start off. When you have your schedule, make sure that it's well developed. This is what you want to do. And once you're sure of that, the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to set the baseline. And if we check out over here on the screen, you'll see where my circle is. It says set baseline. And there's a choice down there to set baseline. As I said, I'll go through this rather quickly just to get us where we need to revise and recover the schedule, but I would usually go to the variance screen. You see I haven't set the baseline yet. I'm going to click set baseline here, set baseline for the entire project. Boom. That's copied all this here and copied all that there. And now whenever we make changes, it'll make changes and compare the variances. So we'll be able to see if we start a little bit differently than we expected or finish differently. If we don't do this, the updating process is pretty much useless. The next thing we need to do is to set a status date, and I'm going to quickly do that. Here you can sort of see my status date box here, and you pick a date that you're going to update the project schedule to. So I'm going to pick, let's see here, what are we into May? Let's say around May 21st. And I'm going to click OK. And so now we've got a status date that should be indicated here. You know you've set it once it's indicated there. I'd like to see it. It's a very visual thing. So I'm going to right click in this empty spot on the Gantt chart, right click my mouse, and I'm going to select grid lines. If I go on grid lines, I'm going to pull this down like I discussed in my previous video, status date, solid line, and the color red just because I want it to pop a little bit. So I want that to display over there. So I'm just going to click on that. There we go. And I'm going to click OK here. All right. There we see the line displaying very clearly here, and we're going to update to that line. Now, what I didn't show in the previous video was there is also under the task box, there's this mark on track. I showed you that, but if you pull down, there's update tasks. You can update tasks here if you're actually in the task, and you can say how much complete it is. You can say actual duration. You can put actual start and actual finish. It'll even show you what the current start and finish is for it. So that's one way of updating tasks. Personally, it's not really my way. My way is more to go to the tracking screen. So I click on the square icon box over here and I right click, I go tracking. And in that tracking screen, you can see actual start and actual finish. So we can put actual dates in there. And actual finish time. So let's say apply for permits. By the way, I usually insert the duration column in this screen. So I'm going to go insert column. I type D for duration, and then it should just pop up there, and there it is. So I have the duration column in my tracking screen. You got to remember which screen you're in. So I'm in the tracking screen, and then I can update. I can say, you know what, this took 23 days. It's now done. I can say it's 100% done. I can say that the site trailer is completed. I could say that the site layout took an extra 2 days. So I could put 4 days, and I could say it's 100% done. And then, you know what? I could just update everything else on track. So that's where this mark on track is pretty useful. What I would do is I would select everything to the left of the status date. So I just select everything by clicking on that square icon box, and that'll include, you know, all of the activities. But if I use that nice little mark on track box, If I just click on it, it's going to update this to this point. It's going to update this to this point. It's going to say this milestone is done and this milestone is done. And it's going to fill in these dates and say what percentage they're done. So if I just click mark on track, watch for it, wait for it, you're going to see it. Here it is. Boom, done. And these ones that it says NA, the finish dates, well, they haven't finished yet. It's still continuing onward. So that's my quick sort of recap on the updating process. As I said, you can go back and watch some of my other videos. I'll leave them in the links description below, and you can click on them for the full 9 yards. So that's history, right? That's happened. And so right now, what we're going to do is we're going to save this file. I'm going to go File, Save As, and maybe I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it, I'm going to call this my Newtown 2 project. All right, Newtown 2 project. I've already got a Newtown there, so we'll call it Newtown 2 project. I'm going to double click on that. Now I'm inside of that, and I'm going to call this my job. I'm going to call this number 1 because it's the first update on this job. I'm going to call it job, let's see, I'm going to call it job 4 of 2022, let's say. Okay, so we'll say 22, or I could go 42022, whatever I want. I think I'll just go 422. And I'm going to go new township for my project, and I'm going to call it update. And I'm going to say that it was, I think it was May, I might be wrong on this now, May 19th, or was it May 21st? I think it might have been May 21st. Let's go with May 21st. Anyways, you get the idea with that, 2022. So I've come up with a file naming protocol that I use there, and you'll see why I'm going to do that for the revision. So I save it. That's my file naming protocol. Let's just see if I was okay with that with the status date. Yeah, I was. May 21st, well, it's actually 2021, so I should have called it 21. So we're actually in 2021. I was using 2022. Okay, so I would have called it 2021. Anyways, you get the idea. So that is our update. Now, the revision, I'm just going to go File, Save As, same file, right? Same file. And I'll use the same folder that I was in. So I'll double click on that. And all I'm going to change here is I'm going to call it revision or recovery. In construction, sometimes there's debate whether we should call it revision or recovery. It doesn't really matter as long as you're consistent. So new township revision. All right, May 21st, 2022. I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to try and fix it. So we're delayed here, I'm pretty sure. I don't know how much because I should go to the variant screen. That's the screen that I see all this stuff in. That's where I see my delays. So there you go. In the variant screen, I clicked the square icon box. I went to the variant screen. I can see I'm 3 days behind schedule. That's not even by itself the best screen to look at. I like to look at the tracking Gantt. So if you slide all the way to the left and you go to tracking Gantt, right? Tracking Gantt. And then I go back and I got to go back into that variant screen. Click the square icon box, right click, variants. So I'm in the variant screen. I should see start and finish variants. Then if I want to scroll to a task, I can just click on that task I want to see, go to my task tab, go to scroll to tasks, very quick shortcut. And I can see my tracking Gantt, and I can see I'm not on schedule. First of all, let's just put up that status date bar or line so we can see it again. Right click, grid lines, right click over this empty Gantt chart spot. Pull down to status date, pick solid line, pick red. You're getting good at this, right? So you can get good at this. Status date line, red. So we've got that red line in there. Now all we've got to do is figure out how to get the time back. right? And I'll have to explain the tracking Gantt to you. So I'm going to insert column. I like to have the duration column in this screen too. Most screens I like to have the duration column in. So I just customize it. If I want to see more of the task, I can just pull this off to the side and I can see things a little bit more clearly perhaps. I want to see my start and finish variances. There they are. Now just to remind you, I talked about this in my previous update video. The bottom bar represents the baseline. That was your original plan. So that was the original plan. There's the bottom bar. That's the original plan. So clearly we started on time because the top bar represents what's either actually happened or what's going to happen with the changes that have been made. So anything to the left of the status date, because we updated it, has been done. It's history. We can't change it. You know, you could play around with it, but we don't want to change it. That's what was the update. To the right of the status date, that's what's changed as a result of what occurred during the last month. So if this was a construction project, these are the things that happened during the last update period. So that's already happened. So I can clearly see we were supposed to be here, but it looks like here. So this has shifted, all right? And it says it's shifted 5 days. So it started 5 days behind and it finished 5 days behind. This started 3 days behind the site layout and finished 5 days behind. That means it took 2 days longer than we expected. There is even another column. It is referred to as the baseline duration. So I can insert that column. All I did was right click, picked insert, and I can type, as long as I know the first letter of it, I just have to type that, baseline, and there should be one baseline duration. So you see here, like I said, the baseline duration, the original plan was 2 days. It's now 4 days. So you can see here, my start variation was 3 days behind schedule because of this here. The permit was delayed, right? And that kind of walked its way through and pushed its way through the critical path items and continued on, and then became 5 days here because this took 2 days longer. I didn't really need to see this to figure that out, but you might find it helpful as a tool. Baseline duration compared to what's the current duration at. All right, so we are 5 days behind schedule, and I could even count that, you know, the 5 days if I wanted to, with the finish, right? Not the start, but the finish. So the finish I could see was on, if you scroll up, you can see it was going to be on Thursday, and now it's at the end of the following Thursday. So that's the other thing. This is 5 working days. It does not count weekends. All right, so we know we're 5 days behind. And if we did a really good update, I went into the detail on this in the previous video, we would have left notes as to why the permits were delayed, why this took 2 days longer. Really good to document things. But right now, we're just trying to figure out how do we get the time back. So we're actually looking forward on our schedule. And in project management terms, I use what we call the direct method that I kind of created. The direct method means we detect along the critical path, right? In this case, I've got everything red, so that's not too creative there until you get further down in the project. Then you get a bunch of stuff with float. But the idea is you detect along the critical path first. You try to fix whatever the problem is sooner rather than later. So that the D is detect along the critical path. The I is look more immediately than later. Because if you take stuff out of the end of the project, when you get to the end of the project, it's got no flexibility. So better to fix it sooner rather than later. Look for the no or low cost solution. And experiment. So looking for the no or low cost solution means reduce cost. Maybe there's opportunities even to do it for less money now that you're in the thick of the project. So you want to reduce and you want to experiment. So that's what we're into right now, is experimenting and seeing what we can do. So I could look at clear site and grubbing and excavate foundation. And I could say, you know what? The clear site and grubbing, a lot of that work is going to be around the edge of the property, and we could actually start excavating while we're clearing the site and grubbing. So what I could do is I could double click on the link line there. That's the shortcut. And I could easily go -1, 2, 3. I could save 3 days here potentially, putting a negative lag in here. For you Puritans on this that might, get upset with me doing that, you could put a start-to-start relationship with this. Instead of putting a negative lag, have a start-to-start relationship so that so many days after this starts, and that would pull this back. That's another way of fixing it. But I'm going to keep it simple for those that are doing regular project management that are perhaps not in civil projects or heavy industrial projects or just any other kind of project. So I'll click here and I'm going to click -3 days, and that pulls that back. So I just saved 3 days on my schedule. My project is now back on track. I would make sure if I'm going to do something like that, that I put a note to talk to that particular trade to make sure that they buy into it. That is the C in the direct method. Detect along the critical path, look for the immediate solution, look to reduce the cost, DIR, experiment, and then communicate. Get the commitment of the people involved, and this is going to help the team. So that's DIRECT, direct method. So hopefully that's giving you an indication of how you can look at resolving and getting the time back to zero. Now, if you're using a cost-loaded schedule, you would also have wanted to be looking at your cost. So right now, whatever I did, it actually has put me ahead. I'm saving $400. So if I actually undo this and I go back to what it was, which was zero, was over here, we had a variance of $3,320. By doing this, double clicking on that link line, I put the -3 days, right? That saved me $400. You might be wondering, well, how could that have saved you $400? Well, it means that I had the site super and project manager assigned to the whole project. And I also had, well, I don't think it's saving me anything there. I had the excavation sub assigned at $40,000. So I think my big savings is with the superintendent and the project manager. I've saved all that money out of here, and I reduced the overall duration. So I could even check where I've been saving the money on a different screen with them if I wanted to. So I could actually go on my tracking Gantt, go to my resource sheet, and I could go, there's a cost sheet here. I could check the cost sheet and see, oh, okay, actually it's on the laborers. It's on the laborers where I saved. So I reduced that back to zero. That would have been part of the 3,300. The laborers, that might be coming from somewhere else in the project where I shortened one of my durations. So that might be coming from somewhere else on my project where I shortened one of my durations on that. So what we managed to do was to get it back on track. We have zero variance now. We are not running late with our project. And that's how you go about setting a revision. Of course, click Save, and then you're good. Then the next one would be you would go File, Save As, and again, I would put it into the same folder, and I would change it now. The next update would be number 2, okay? And then I would call it Update. And maybe you're going, let's say, a month ahead, so maybe now the next update is going to be June 20th. All right, so say the next update is June 20th, save, and then your next update would be June 20th, not 2021, but 2022, but 21. And so then you would change your status date, and your status date would be under project. You would go to status date, May 21st, and now you would go to June 20th. Of course I picked a Sunday. Okay, let's make it the 18th. Okay, and we click the 18th, and now the next status date is here. So now we would be updating in this update period from here back to our previous status date, right? So this is going to be updating from this point up to this point. And then we would check it. Once we're finished updating, then we would rename it. We would call it to Job 422, New Township Recovery, if we needed it. If we were on track, we wouldn't need to do a recovery. So we're setting basically a process of file naming that we can run through. And this is the quick way of doing a revision and getting the time back. The whole purpose of scheduling with MS Project is not just to develop a schedule. It's to be able to track it. It's to be able to update it. And it's to be able to figure out when things don't go the way you planned, how do you get the time back? So that's how we use Microsoft Project to do it. I hope this short video has been helpful. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really helps a lot. And you can see in the description below some links to other MS Project videos. If you're in the construction field, I have a wealth of different topics that I have under playlists if you subscribe. And don't forget to click the bell. You'll be notified of new notifications. I'm Tom Stevenson, wishing you a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.